It's time for the only podcast dedicated to spaghetti westerns and the people who made them. Join hosts Jay Jennings and Tom Betts for the Once Upon a Time in Spaghetti Westerns podcast, which starts now. Well, hi everybody, and welcome to the Once Upon a Time in Spaghetti Westerns podcast. I'm Spaghetti Westerns collector Jay Jennings. I'm at the bar. I'll have a double bourbon. And we want to welcome you to show number 50, the last of season 1. We did 50 episodes on almost every title, and we couldn't have done it without the man next to me, the one, the only, Tom Betts. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Jay. Tell that bartender don't put that drink on my tab.
Oh, okay. And a sarsaparilla for Tom.
Sarsaparilla, right.
Tom, this is the last week. You can't see them, but the balloons are everywhere. And this is actually our 1-year anniversary, Tom. Our first show was May 22nd, 2020, Tom.
Wow. 50 episodes. I don't believe it.
Well, I can, and it's thanks to mostly to our fan base and the people who tune in and watch our show live and on the archives, YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and most importantly, iTunes. So you can catch, while we're on hiatus, we have about 13 or 14 best of episodes of the Once Upon a Time in Spaghetti Westerns podcast. Special last show. We're going to wait for a little bit more people to come in, but we do have a contest at the end of the show. After Tom and I, maybe about the halfway mark. You just say if you want to say I or here or present. If you want to participate, a little giveaway, you just have to pay for shipping. So I probably lost most of you anyway. But just know it's about $100 worth of goodies for absolutely being a fan of the show. To the lucky person, we go into the sombrero and we're going to pull out a name at the end of the show, and they're going to get some great stills from some great that Tom has declined to donate, so I will do it instead. I'll give you a quick hint. It's about 10 stills. One of them is a French original, for a few dollars more. So, that's where you get, or lets it drop. Yeah, right. And that's my favorite scene in the movie.
Yeah, that was the joke.
One of about 10 stills. Not all of them are from the movie, but that's what we're giving away. And we'll say when it starts, and then we'll just pick a name randomly, and you win if you pay for shipping. Other than that, they go into the shredder. No, just kidding. They'll sit here until I'll sell them on eBay for $100 easy. So just a going away present to everybody, saying thank you for being a fan and for watching the show. Tom, today we're doing Horst Frank.
Horst Frank, yeah, an unusual actor. I tend to think, Jay, if he didn't turn to becoming a villain, he probably wouldn't have had a very long spaghetti western career. Because he's known for... He started out as a hero, but he went villainish and he's hung around, but hasn't got much expression on his face when you see him in these films. He just sits back and cracks the whip.
Tom, poor man's Klaus Kinski. If you can't get Klaus, you'd get Horst Frank. That's my opinion. I think it's great. I love Horst. He does this thing.
Love him too, yeah.
He mostly plays Nazis and soldiers and guys with scars. But, so did a lot of actors. I knew the late Ferdinand Maine, who in a lot of horror films. He played you fit a certain look. And he did that. So when he came to Italy or Spain to do these spaghetti westerns, how can I fit in? And basically playing the bad guy or the assistant to the bad guy, or the guy behind. He's the card player behind the scenes. I'm not getting involved.
Right.
But he still draws his gun, right, Tom?
Yeah, he's the tyrant that dishes the abuse out with his henchmen. He doesn't get involved. Doesn't want to dirty his hands,
Right. But what's cool about him is he's had an on-screen presence, like in his first film, The Pirates of Mississippi. He just stands there with his cheap 1950s cowboy outfit on and just going somewhere. It's really cool. Everything he's in, he makes cool, kind of like a William Berger, Klaus. I think he has that appeal. Underrated, Tom. That's why we're doing the
Oh yeah, I'm
show
sure. Yep.
on Horst Frank, who was born Horst Bernard Wilhelm Frank, Tom, in Lebeck in Schleswig-Holstein, Germany. He attended military school, and then he began an apprenticeship. You can continue on as I show the pictures, Tom.
Goofball. All right. He was trained as an actor at Hamburg University of Music. He did not pass the final exam, but he got his first engagement in 1950 after his training engagements at various German theaters followed. So he had he learned his craft while he acted. He didn't go to classes after he dropped out. In the 50s, he played several German movies. In addition to positive heroes, the German cinema also called for anti-heroes. As a contrast, Frank specialized in pessimistic, melancholy character. After 2 television productions, his first feature film, Der Stern von Afrika,
Of course.
1957,
I know that film well, Tom.
set him for his role. This was followed by other anti-war films such as Sharks and Little Fish, 57, and Dogs, Do You Want to Live Forever, 58. He remained entrenched in these villain roles through the 60s. He played the boss in the Jerry Cotton film version to 0 p.m. Snaps the Trap, 66, and in the Revenge of Dr. Fu Manchu, 67. Sometimes he had other villains, Klaus Kinski as a film partner, so that'd be a dynamic duo.
Wow.
Klaus and Frank, yeah.
That's a talk show, Tom.
Yeah.
Hi, welcome to Horst and Klaus. No, it's Klaus and Horst.
I'm sure, yeah, that Klaus wanted to be first. In the drama Caligula, a television production from 66, he's shown in the title role. Through his participation in the ZDF crime series Der Kommissar, Derek and Der Alt, as well as his role as Baron de la Fute in the multi-part Timthaler, 1979, in all, Frank appeared in over 140 films and TV series. I don't think we realize that he was in that many, made that many appearances. Because of his distinctive voice, Horst Frank was also hired for radio plays and dubbed German voices for films. Ironically, however, he was dubbed in most of his foreign and even in some of his German films, regularly by Helmo Kindermann. Likely because of his lack of work in major American or British productions, Frank never quite achieved the international recognition he undoubtedly deserved. Frank also dabbed in poetry and released a book of his poems in 1989 called I Look in the Mirror. Frank was married 4 times and had a son and a daughter. Horst Frank died on May 25th, 1999 of a cerebral hemorrhage, 3 days before his 70th birthday.
Well, that's always a bummer.
Yeah.
It's always something with these spaghetti western stars. Drink, alcohol, an early death, a terminal
Suicide.
disease. Right. But anyway, as long as Eli Wallach didn't die from drinking acid, Tom,
Yeah, really.
that accidental cup on the set. Anyway, so background, as you know, he's been in, I think he made some films with Jess Franco, Tom, the...
I could have.
Yeah, that crazy horror director. I have some of his films. And no, he's one of those guys who worked. And he's very distinguished. So great character actor. And by no means a leading man. But he played one hell of a Nazi, Tom. You know, with the black. And it's like, well, your papers.
Yeah, his characters were always in control of the situation. I mean, you know, he wasn't pursued by the good guys. He always had his henchmen do the work, and he was the puppet master behind the scenes.
Right. So no, right. Usually the rich. I like him as the rich poker player behind, waiting. Oh, there's a wanted sign on the wall. And like Klaus, it looks familiar. He'll grab it from the wall, and but then we're here to talk about the 9, spaghetti westerns he made. Tom, as I reach for my freshly squeezed. Oh, but it's see-through freshly squeezed. So, anyway, the first film he made, Tom, Pirates of the Mississippi, an early spaghetti western, Tom.
Yeah, it's I would call a Euro Western or a German Western. It was made in 1963. was a German-French film co-production directed by Jürgen Roland. It's about a gang of pirates of the Mississippi River led by Captain Alan Kelly, played by Frank, who tries to take control of the peaceful country. Sheriff James Lively, played by Hans-Georg Felmy, is sent to eliminate them and must fight against the distrust of the people, criminals, and even Indians. When the thugs steal a Cherokee Indian land grant in a mail robbery and take over Helena, Arkansas, the Cherokees, led by Chief Black Eagle, played by Tony Kendall, save the settlers while taking revenge on the outlaws. I told Jay before we started this episode that there were two major German Western authors, Karl May, who did the Winnetou films, and Friedrich Gerstacker, who did these German Westerns that Horst Frank was in. And he did this particular film, Pirates of the Mississippi. It was his story was the basis for the film. Hans-Georg Felmy was a German actor, and he's in a couple of Euro Westerns. Sabine St. John is in this. Brad Harris is the main American actor in Hero. Dorothy Parker is in it. Tony Kendall again, who's been in a bunch of spaghetti westerns. There's Dan Vadas on the left there. He was in it. So a precursor of the European westerns to come, with a lot of familiar faces early on. And it's a decent film. Typical Hans Frank, the bad guy, but he's the boss, so he has his henchmen do all the dirty work, doesn't get physically involved.
Tom, only Horst Frank could have done this role, Tom.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Look at the face. Yep.
I mean, this is a Horst Frank role if you ever saw one.
And it's on DVD, so it's available.
Yeah, okay, cool. So then after Pirates of the Mississippi, he went on to make another great titled spaghetti western, Bullets Don't Argue, a.k.a. Bullets Don't Lie. Well, he played Billy Clanton, but he wasn't the famous Clanton, was he, Tom?
It's sort of like they used the name recognition for it, but he's really not the Billy Clanton. This is also called Guns Don't Talk, The Last Two at Rio Bravo. We know it as Bullets Don't Argue. It's a 64 Italian, Spanish, German film co-production, and most people forget that this was the main film that Sergio Leone tagged onto to get Fistful of Dollars made. A lot of the same crew members. Morricone did the score for both. They used the same town sets. But this was the one that the production companies really wanted to push, was Bullets Don't Argue, where Fistful became the big hit.
Well, Tom, this was filmed at the same time.
Oh, yeah, exactly. One after the other. Yep. This one involves Sheriff Pat Garrett, another familiar Western name, played by Rod Cameron, who hunts down the Clanton brothers, Billy and George. Now, the real Clanton brothers, there was Billy and Ike. There wasn't any George in there. There's also a Finn, but no George, so it's not the same Clantons. Anyways, the Clanton brothers had robbed a local bank on the day of Pat Garrett's wedding. So he travels after them and goes into Mexico to get them. George, the younger one, helps him to defend the money against a bunch of bandits. So George is played by Angel Aranda, and he turns out to be good, where Horst plays Billy Clanton, and he's just evil all the way through.
Yeah, but it's still his show, Tom. Two movies in a row.
Yep. And also his Vivi Bach is in it, singer. Dick Palmer, Domenico Palmara plays
one of the great names of spaghetti westerns, Tom.
Yeah, he's in it. And it's got two stories. It's basically the trail of Pat Garrett after the Clanton brothers, and then he gets waylaid and stuck in Mexico, and he runs into Vivi Bach and her brother, and they put up a defense. And George runs away, the typical, uh-oh, there we go, we lost one. Well, George went to get help. So at the very end, George turns to be the good guy and brings in the cavalry.
I mean, look at that face, Tom.
Yep, look at that. Oh, he's like,
That's the face. That's the Horst Frank face.
Yep.
So,
now, a couple of trivia things, Jay. Frank says he was offered the role of Ramon Rojo in Fistful of Dollars. Instead, he took the Billy Clanton role. Mimo Palmara, Dick Palmer, also says that he was offered the role of Ramon Rojo. So, I mean, both of them were on the set. They may have been. Who knows? but it's again like The Man with No Name. Everybody in Hollywood says they were offered the
Tom,
role. Yep.
Tom's being modest. You were actually offered the role, Tom.
I wasn't quite old enough, but yeah.
Oh, please, Tom. You look great for
Anyways.
93, Tom.
Yeah, that's true. I could have passed. They could have put some, some more facial hair on me. I could have.
Right. So anyway, so we failed. We didn't mention. Oh, so Pirates of the Mississippi. Say that fast 3 times, Tom.
Yeah.
Bullets Don't Argue, and our next film. Was that 2 or 3 that he made with Brad Harris?
I think he made 2.
Okay. Just the first 2 then.
No, I'm sorry. He made 3 with them.
Okay. Or maybe 4 with Black Eagle, Tom. 3 or 4. Yep. Once we do the show, it always grows, Tom.
Yep, he was in all 3 of the German westerns.
Nice.
Together, yep.
Speaking of which, let's get to the next film on our tribute to Horst Frank. And it's actually a very good film, Tom. It's got multiple titles. In the States, it was a Massacre at Marble City. I like it better as Conquerors of Arkansas, Tom.
Yep, and that's Horst right there in the poster. He plays a good guy in this one. Little bit shaky, but he's a decent man.
Looks like Tom. It looks like Terrence Stamp right there.
Terrence Stamp from Soldier.
From Blue, yeah.
From Blue, yeah, exactly. This was done in '64. It's a West German, Italian, French co-production directed by Paul Martin. Again, the story is by Friedrich Gerstacker. Stars Brad Harris, Mario Adorf, Horst Frank, Ralph Walter, Mariana Hope, Dieter Borsch, Joseph Edger, who played Papiro in Fistful of Dollars in it. And it's supposedly takes place in Arkansas, ? I really don't consider Arkansas a big Western
community
state, but it is in the West, like Minnesota Clay. Minnesota is not really a Western state. It tells the conflict of interest between the local townspeople and homesteaders on the surrounding land. Miners arriving during the gold rush, cowboys and cattle thieves who caused problems in the area, and the native tribes of the region. So it's a cowboy Indian film. 2 adventurers, Phil Stone, played by Brad Harris, and trapper Dan McCormick, played by Horst Frank, arrive in town and try to restore peace to it and its inhabitants. So it sounds like a Winnetou type film.
Tom, I thought it was a Winnetou film.
Yeah,
where's Lex Barker?
Yep, and Pierre Brice. So, anyways, Arkansas. This was filmed in Czechoslovakia, so Czechoslovakia takes the place of Arkansas in this one. And like I said, Frank actually plays a good guy. He's a bit of a rascal, but he's on the right side for the change.
But Tom, they filmed this in Czechoslovakia as opposed to Arkansas.
Oh, yeah, really, yeah.
Who knew, Tom?
Who knew, yeah. Anyways, in this film, this is where Brad Harris met Ali Shobarova, and they became married after that. I always thought that he was taken advantage of, and Ali just wanted to get out of the Eastern Bloc country and get to America because they didn't stay together too long.
Like Elkie Summer did, Tom.
Yep. Anyways, there's lots of German actors that pop up that were in future spaghetti westerns.
Oh, yeah, lots of them, Tom. You already mentioned them already, didn't you?
Yep.
Okay. So anyway, a nice run for Horst in these films. It's not like he's made a bad film, and he continues that, Tom, with Black Eagle of Santa Fe. First 4 films are kind of that German-looking, trying to pass for a spaghetti western, but it works on some levels, Tom.
Yep, and remember at that time, these early ones were the only ones that they had to compete with were the Winnetou films.
Right.
The spaghetti westerns hadn't taken off yet until '64. So.
And look in this picture, Tom. Look, who's that who looks like Robert Shaw from Jaws? In the left.
Well, that's Horst Frank on the left.
No, is that Horst?
It looks like Chuck Connors in the center. Yeah, that's Horst Frank.
Right, it's Chuck Connors, and Elliot Gould is the guy with the gun, Tom.
That's Brad Harris, yeah.
Wow, Tom and I sometimes have this. We say put different actors in the spaghetti western poster. So that's what we did just now. Anyway, Tom, tell us about the plot.
All right, Black Eagle of Santa Fe. This was done in '65. Again, it's a German, Italian, French co-production, directed by Ernest Goodman, who's actually Ernest Hofbauer. This one has Brad Harris in it, Joaquin Hansen, Horst Frank, Werner Peters, Antonio Molina Rojo from the Leone movies, Pincus Braun, and Helga Summerfield. This one is about a bloody Indian raid on a small town, which sends the townspeople to the local fort for help and protection. With only a handful of men left in his command and his hands tied by army red tape and regulations, Captain Jackson, played by Joaquin Hansen of the fort, enlists the aid of frontiersman Clint McPherson, played by Brad Harris, to help him figure out why the Comanches are on the warpath. He finds out a local landowner is causing trouble between the Indians and soldiers, and he wants to get his hands on some oil, which is on Indian land. This one, Horst Frank plays Blade Carpenter. He's a frontiersman that Brad Harris uses to infiltrate the Indians and find out the cause of the disturbance.
Right.
Tony Kendall claims Sergio Leone offered him the role of the man with no name after seeing him in this film. So here we go again. Add Tony to the list. But Horst plays a newspaper reporter who has some vital information on the incident which led to the hostilities.
Yeah. No, that's yeah. And Tony Kendall again. We missed out, Tom, by not doing a show on Tony Kendall.
Yep.
Yeah. Is he still alive, Tom?
No, he died, I don't know, maybe over 5 years ago of cancer.
Oh, that sucks.
He did have a final reunion with Brad Harris.
Nice.
Because they were in the Commissar X movies, and they were paired together because they had great fighting skills. So that's probably where it came from, these early spaghetti westerns.
Tom, point your the top of your camera down a little bit more so we get more fuller you. There you go. So anyway, Tom, show your shirt.
Oh, it's Clint.
Right, and mine is the Legends of Spaghetti Westerns.
The Unholy Four.
Right. So anyway, let's move right along, losing a little bit of my voice here on the 50th episode of the Once Upon a Time in Spaghetti Westerns podcast. Once again, I'll remind all of you, you can catch all 50 episodes on YouTube and Facebook until we come back. And as I said, summer hiatus. Tom and I are both having new houses built. His is in actually Almeria, and mine's in Roma. And we're gonna we're gonna do the show via streaming like we do. So that's why we're taking the break, because our houses need to be built. So anyway, our next spaghetti western that we're going to do here that pays our homage to the great Horst Frank is one of my, as you know, Tom, a top 5 spaghetti western. I know it is Prepare a Coffin, or Django Prepare a Coffin, but Tom, what does the rest of the world know it as?
Viva Django. And the reason being is this was supposedly be a sequel to Django, and our buddy Franco Nero had already gone to Hollywood, and so they had to come up with a replacement, and they got Terence Hill, who remarkably looks very similar to Franco in those days. They both had the blue eyes, and dressed as Django, Terence Hill pulls this one off. In fact, I like Terence Hill more as a hard cowboy than his Trinity roles.
Well, Tom, to be honest with you, I saw the Trinity films first.
Did you?
Because this one, I don't know if, at least in my order of when I would get it from, like, one of those newspaper rags from the 80s, or
right,
that sold VHS cassettes of rare stuff, or Video Search from Miami. And so I saw the Trinity first. I think the Trinity movies were on TV out here first.
Yeah, probably.
So I didn't see Prepare a Coffin maybe 5 or 10 years ago. So the point is, as soon as I saw this film, I asked myself one question, one word: why? Why would you do a bunch of Trinity movies?
Exactly.
I know he has a cult following, and that's his claim to fame. But it hasn't, at least one of our, any of us watching or listening, didn't you think after seeing this film, you should have stuck with this? You could have played an offshoot of Django, or better yet, continue to play him.
Yeah, he could have been the Django and taken it away from Franco.
But you know what? This one film alone, I think, is completely underrated. It's a top 5 in mine, Tom, as you know. It reeks of it's just death, and the Reaper and what he does for it's more sinister than even the Nero
Oh yeah, yeah.
He's a freaking hangman, Tom.
Yep. Recruiting his own army.
So
So,
I
this
love
was,
Viva Django or Django, prepare a coffin.
This was a '67,
Yeah,
directed by Fernando Baldi, who's one of my favorite directors.
he is.
And this is about Django as portrayed by a former friend of his, David Barry, played by guess who? Horst Frank,
Uh-huh.
who's a politician, that double-crossing politician. Anyways, Barry has Django's wife killed by a gunman named Lucas, played by George Eastman. Setting out for revenge, he stages a number of fake executions only to use those freedmen who are now indebted to him as his gang to put an end to Lucas's bandits. So what he does is he plays a hangman and goes into town and prepares the victim with a brace so that when they're hung, they look like they're hung, but they're not. And then he cuts them down and takes them away for burial, revives them, and builds an army of henchmen with these supposedly dead outlaws.
It sounds like the movie Motel Hell, Tom, where this old couple invites people to stay at their place and they kill them and plant them in the
Oh yeah, remember that.
garden, and then they raise them up.
Was that a Rory Calhoun?
It is Rory Calhoun, Tom.
Yep, it is.
Anyway, love Viva Django, not to be confused with the Viva Django with Anthony Stephan, which is
Right.
also known as W Django.
Right.
We did a whole show on alternate titles. I think, what episode was that? Like 3 or 4, Tom?
Yeah, wasn't it first 5?
Yeah. But every show is an alternate title.
Yeah,
So
we go through them all. Yeah.
right.
Anyways, everyone we've shown so far, and I think all of his Horst Frank's films are on DVD. This one actually is on Blu-ray. So, and Frank is a typical slimy, mean politician, and you can't wait for Terrence Hill to get down to getting his vengeance on Horst Frank.
He's kind of a little bit like William Berger in Sartana, Tom.
Yeah. True.
So, right, he is kind of like this. Is he a gambler or a land baron? What is he, Tom?
No, he's a politician.
Oh, he's a politician. Right, okay.
Senator, yeah. And Terrence Hill helped him get where he is, but then he turns his back on Terrence Hill and then has his wife killed. And so he goes after him.
Well, here's the $1,000,000 question, Tom. You think this was would you consider this a sequel or an official Django film, Tom?
Well, I always do, but most of the critics say, "Oh no, it's got to have Franco Nero playing Django. You know, it can't have anybody else play Django." But
God
for me,
forbid.
yeah, it was. I mean, he was supposed to have been in it, but he was over here making Camelot.
Listen, to me, it's like you want to hear a comparison? It's like the two Darrens on Bewitched, Tom.
Yeah.
They both. Dick York one day became Dick Sargent, and I was
Right.
as a kid, I was like, "Huh?" But they both were great. I could appreciate both of them. You can't say one of them didn't exist, right, Tom?
That's right.
Right. So anyway, moving down on the great films of Horst Frank. Actually, it's one, I'd say, minor classic after another. One that you can actually keep watching. And the next
none
one.
of these are clunkers yet.
No, not wait. Wait
Yeah.
to the last one or two, Tom. Like they all do.
Exactly.
When hard times hit, you take whatever comes, Tom.
right.
Hollywood, Italy, Spain, it's all the same. Anyway, the next film, most unappropriately titled The Dirty West, Tom, or the Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, or what, Tom, when it should only be known as one thing, the very Macbethian...
Johnny Hamlet. Yeah, this one's bizarre. Wait, I got a poster, an American poster for it, Jay.
Oh, on today's Tom's Attic,
yeah,
Poster
we'll get
Attic?
there.
Yeah.
Anyways, this was known as Django. The grave diggers are already waiting. How's that one for a title?
Actually, Tom, I might have to put that there.
I guess the one I got. Yep.
Okay.
I'll show you it. So then it's also called To Kill or Not to Kill. Trying to stay with the,
Oh, Tom, if I
experience.
remember, this has one of the most titles of any spaghetti western.
Yeah. The Dirty Story of the West, The Wild and the Dirty. I mean, it's all over the place.
And also known as Tom Betts Home Movies.
When I was with Enzo at that party that he got an award at, we were talking about his films, and we told him He loved Johnny Hamlet. It's one of his favorites because he loved his favorite composer was Francesco de Masi, who he used in this. And when we told him what the title and the American title was, The Wild and the Dirty, he just looked at us like, "You got to be kidding me!"
Rolled his eyes,
Johnny
Tom.
Hamlet, The Wild and the Dirty. That's what it's called.
But he plays a very, kind of sinister role in this too, Tom.
Yeah. Well, this is typical Shakespeare. Johnny Hamlet, played by Chip Corman, who's actually Andrea Giordana, returns home after 2 years' absence to discover his father dead and his mother Gertrude. Uh-oh. Was that our Gertrude that played this in here?
I hope
they
not.
just took the name. Hope not. She's old enough. Played by Francois Prevost, married to his uncle Claude, played by Horst Frank. Understandably disturbed by this state of affairs and highly suspicious of his uncle's role in the death of his father, Johnny sets out getting to the bottom of the intrigue and seeking revenge. With the help of his friend Horace, played by Gilbert Roland, they get to the bottom and expose Claude and his henchmen for the killers that they are. So yeah, he's a slime bucket. He got rid of his brother and married the widow. And this one's really good. It's got a great score, and it's got a graveyard and a cave, which I've never seen before or since. And it's just very, very friendly on the eyes. A lot of action. You know the Hamlet story; it follows it right along.
It does, Tom. What's Tom? One of the great opening scenes of all time in a spaghetti western. It's Chip Corman being dragged on his face, going "Ah!"
Oh yeah, yeah.
Ah! And that's how it starts.
And then they crucify him to an X cross and put him up on a hill. I mean,
it's a great film. It's a fun little cult film, no doubt.
Gilbert Roland plays the always loyal friend. You know, he's always great. And then Pedro Sanchez is in this. And he's clean shaven, and you don't even recognize him until about halfway through the film.
I hate when they do that, Tom. But anyway, great so far. I think that's 6 spaghetti westerns, all watchable so far. And the next one is no exception. I used to have this poster, Tom, but I don't know if I still do. It was one of my first posters. And The Moment to Kill, one of the great titles and one of the great posters. Let's get to that right now. And it's with your friend Walter Barnes, Tom.
Walter Barnes, yeah. This one is also called Viva Django in the UK.
Another one.
The Moment of Killing. This is one of my favorites, Jay, because it's just nonstop action. And you can see that George Hilton and Walter Barnes are having a ball making this, because no matter what the predicament that they're put in, they know they're going to get out of it. And so they've always got little smirks on their face. And after 20 guys attack them and they defeat them, they walk out of a barn or a building and sort of smile at each other like, "You got to be kidding. They thought they were going to get us." But I love this one. This one is about 2 famous gunmen. Lord, played by George Hilton, and Bull, played by Walter Barnes, are called to a southwestern town by Judge Warren, played by Rudolph Schundler, to find a gold reserve worth $500,000 hidden by a Confederate colonel. The judge is killed, and Lord and Bull have only 2 clues as to where the gold is hidden: the name of the colonel's favorite book and the name of the man's handicapped daughter, Regina, played by Lonnie von Friedel. The girl is kept as a prisoner by her uncle, town boss Forrester, played by Horst Frank, who has hired an entire army of gunmen to deter others. Lord and Bull manage to eliminate them all in a series of shootouts, but the script has a few surprises in stock for the 2 men. I won't give away the ending, but it is a surprise ending. So it's well worth finding this one and giving it a watch. Frank, as Jason Forrester, has his villain character perfected. Here he's a bit hot-headed, but still vicious and conniving. And like I said, it's got a surprise ending and has added twists and catches your breath for a second, but our heroes have it worked out. So,
yeah, it's poster's great, film is great. Hilton and Barnes are really good in this film. I'd go see it if you can. It's available on something, isn't it, Tom?
Yeah, it's on DVD and video.
Oh, okay. Cool. So, Moment to Kill, Johnny Hamlet, Viva Django, Black Eagle of Santa Fe, Massacre at Marble City, Bullets Don't Argue, Pirates of the Mississippi. All could be great viewing over a weekend. Sometimes these stars surprise you. Those are, these are, hold on a minute. Sorry, folks. So, the next one, another one that you could actually watch and enjoy. No, it's not a 1970s TV sitcom. Right, Tom? Yeah. But Hate Thy Neighbor isn't bad, Tom.
Hate Thy Neighbor, Hate Your Neighbor. Yeah, this one is a 68 Italian. Directed by Ferdinando Baldi. This one is sort of a letdown for me. It's a decent story, but it's based around the torture scenes. Lowering a guy in a pit over a pit full of rattlesnakes. And then, of course, the famous claw fights, which they show on the other poster. This one is about Ken Dakota, played by Spiros Focus. Maybe that's one of the downsides of this. It hasn't got a real strong lead actor as the hero. Anyways, he wants justice for his brother Bill, played by Remo DeAngelis, who was killed by a notorious gunman named Gary Stevens, played by George Eastman. He's excellent in it, for a map to a gold mine. The gunman, on the other hand, is arguing with Gangster Malone, played by Horst Frank, about the map and the gold it promises. A deadly cat and mouse game between the three men ensues. So Frank plays Chris Malone, who enjoys gladiator fights in a ring.
Yeah, you know what that says. You know what that means, Tom.
With huge claws. Yeah, there he sits watching. Now he's doing the Emperor. You know, the pistol goes up or down on whether they live or die.
Right.
So it's kind of like Gladiator. But George Frank and George Eastman, Horst Frank and George Eastman are just excellent as the two villains who fight with each other over the gold mine.
Oh, no, Horst is very good in this. And, it's another one to add to the list to see. Kind of like, the guy looks a little bit like Thomas Millian.
Yeah, that's George Eastman.
Yep.
They're going to lower him over the pit of snakes. Yep.
Oh, that is George Eastman. Okay.
Yeah.
What's the film, Tom, where he jumps from the roof, shooting a six-shooter and killing everybody in town while
George?
It's on fire?
Oh God, I don't know.
Every single one, right, Tom?
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Right, the gun. He's got like 8 bullets, but it goes on for a half hour.
Goes on forever. Yeah, it's like a machine gun.
Anyway, so as I said, another good film. And then we come into kind of the weird period before he makes one last appearance in a classic movie. Tom, I know you were riveted when you saw Carlos come to television. Or did you even see it till years later, or have you even seen it yet?
I have seen it. It's on DVD. The reason I got interested in this one is it's got a fantastic, weird score, because I had the LP.
There it is,
that
Tom.
one right there. And it's got a fantastic opening main theme. And I talked to Thomas Hunter when we did WAI via email. We talked about this one because the cast has Gottfried John, who's a big German actor. Anna Karina is in it. Geraldine Chaplin, Horst Frank, and Thomas Hunter. So it's got a big cast, but no one knew anything about this. And you can see they're all dressed in Western gear, but it's one of these, Jay, that I guess through interpretation of the soundtrack and the dubbing, it can be either a European film, it can be a Mexican, takes place in Mexico, or wherever you want it to be. So a lot of people don't consider it a Western. But it's about the outcast son of a bandit and killer who turns against his father because of his brutal treatment of the poor peasants he controls to work in his mine. Carlos tries to help the enslaved workers and attempts the showdown with his father, but fails. The setting is 1915 Southern Europe, but is often mistakenly credited as Mexico or the American Southwest. The best part of the film is its unique score by composer Ernest Brandner. The track used over the opening credits is haunting, and it really is. It's in German, so it's not going to be, you can't follow along the dialogue, but it's easy to follow story-wise. You know what's happening. And Horst Frank typically plays the head of the henchmen who keep all the peons and the miners in line.
Looks like a Three Musketeers movie,
I was
Tom.
going to say, doesn't it? Yeah, it's like a pirate or a Three Musketeers are there. But it
Yeah,
was
I
made
have.
for TV and it was filmed in Israel, which makes it different.
Oh yeah, how many of those? I think a Leif Garrett movie was right,
Yeah,
Tom.
right. Uh-huh.
But let's take one look at Carlos and his gang, Tom.
There you go. That's John on the horse, Frank on the far
Wait a
right.
minute, Tom. That guy second from the right, that's Jack Black, Tom.
Jack Black. That's actually Leon Chaney, who's a producer, and the guy on the far left is Thomas Hunter from The Hills Run Red.
Oh, okay. So it has some interesting people in it.
That's what I mean. It really does. But I mean, you couldn't find any information about it because it was made for TV.
Right. Speaking of which, before to remind you about TV, we'll have season 2 coming up after our summer hiatus. We're going to have guests only. Names that are being thrown down are Rob Word and Gianni Garco and Tony Anthony and the Hammer, Fred Williamson. They've all talked. We've all spoken to their representatives, and they're almost all confirmed. So that's why one of the reasons we are taking our hiatus, because when you have a good lineup like that, Tom, you want to be sure when they're going to be on the show, and I want to be able to present it on a weekly basis. Okay, next week we'll have this person. As opposed to relying on the management of these places, we will now book the guests when they are available. So there'll be one after another. So that's part of the reason. The other is actually, I said Tom and I are building houses. We're also going into detox. So Tom for the booze and me for the weed. So I'm just kidding. That's all a joke. Anyway, but we're going to have a more serious show because we'll have guests on, authors, spaghetti Western actors, and a few surprise guests as well. Tom's mom's going to be on the show. Tom?
Yeah, and Ghostly.
You and that stupid show. I told you not to do it.
You always got Gertrude in the wings.
Gertrude could stand in as Mrs. Bates, right, Tom? But anyway, let's once again go through this for those of you who even care before we get to the last two. You have about, 10 minutes, 15 minutes or whatever, 20 minutes during while Tom takes over the show and I go to the local pub and have a smoke. We got 9 stills, Tom, all originals. Each one goes for about 15 to 20 bucks each. And that one was that Mortimer. Here's another French still. Maybe I should do a close-up.
For a few dollars more.
Yeah, here we go. So I think about 7 or 8 stills from this film, original French. They go for 10 or 15 each on eBay. You never really can find a set of these. There he is planning.
The gang in the church, yep.
Right. And then one of my favorite scenes in the film is when they take turns knocking off guys at the end of the alley.
Yep. Los Albericocas.
Right. You can't find these on eBay. That's why I was going to put it up on eBay. So here's at the end where he, takes everybody in for the
I want to
reward.
know, did the actors actually lay in that wagon?
Look how awkward Gian Maria Volante looks.
Yeah, I know. I mean, they just threw them in there. Like you have your boot up somebody's butt.
Right. So there's a set of those. Then I have an original from the Appaloosa, probably one of the more famous scenes from the movie.
That's where he turns into the Wolf Man, I see.
Right. I want you to tell you something, John Saxon. Then we have a scene from Duck You Sucker, another $10 still. By the way, if I haven't said this, these are for free. This is all for free. Only at the point of death, Frank. These are all black and white stills. I don't know if you can tell. And of course, an unsigned Charles Bronson Punk. $100 worth given away for free. All you got to do is just say yes or I'd like the stills, and whoever says yes with a few minutes to go before the end of the show, we'll just do a drawing, because I do have all your names in a folder, and I'll just blindly pick one and you'll be the winner. So you just got to pay for shipping. I think it's worth it, 10, 15 bucks tops. Anyway, for those who aren't interested, no problem.
You can send a medium.
I got a shredder right here. Anyway, no, I'm kidding. These are not throwaways, except for the last few. You will not find the French lobbies anywhere. Yeah. I just happen to have an extra set. Tom made an an offer, but if you're related to or work on the show, you're not allowed to bid for them. Anyway, so let's get to the next film, and he actually returns to a classic, Tom, in LVC's Grand Duel.
The Grand Duel, also known as Hell's Fighters in the UK, The Great Duel, The Big Showdown, The Loner, Storm Rider was a video title that appeared here.
Storm Rider.
Yeah, that's a video title. I saw it as a Grand Duel in the theater. 72 is Italian, French, West German, directed by Giancarlo Santi, and music by Luis Bacalov. It's got a fantastic, well-known main theme in this one.
Great, memorable theme.
Yep, haunting theme, I would say. This one's about Sheriff Clayton, played by LVC, who finds himself up against the equally gritty David Saxon, played by Horst Frank. Before this takes place, however, Clayton champions the cause of Philip Newland, or Vermeer, played by Peter O'Brien, a young punk who's been framed on a murder charge. The Saxons, David, Marshal Eli Saxon, played by Mark Mazza, and schizophrenic Adam Saxon, played by Klaus Grunberg, detest Clayton because he did not prevent the murder of their father, the patriarch. In this one, and I'll probably give it away because it's easy to recognize. Horst Frank plays the patriarch, the father. He's heavily make-upped and got a long beard and stuff like that, but you can tell it as soon as they show it that it's Horst Frank playing his father,
Yeah, and this is, as I said, Tom, this is in some circles ranked in the top 20.
Oh, yeah, I know. And
therefore, but you know what's good about that, Tom?
What's that?
Is that Horst can shine in it, and it gives him more exposure, because we already know Lee's in it.
Yeah.
So, and we already know the famous poster with the white background, but he wears a white outfit, which is outrageous.
Well, I look there. He's as tall as Lee Van Cleef, which he'd be about 6'2".
Yeah.
And I always thought he was a little bit smaller than I always thought he was maybe 6 foot, 5'10". So he's pretty decent sized. The only thing I didn't like about this is in the scenes where they show the patriarch, the flashback scenes getting killed. I mean, if you've seen any Lee Van Cleef movies, you know who the figure is in the shadows. So it sort of takes the tension away right away at the beginning.
Hello.
Hi, Jay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yeah, everything's fine.
Dr. Tarantino?
So I'm with this chair today.
I'll go on and talk. Anyways, was the disappointing part for me, was I recognized who the killer was in the steam of the engine very early on. So that part of the film was taken away as far as the suspense part. It's got a great opening scene of Lee walking around while these bounty hunters are trying to catch Philip Vermeer. A lot of acrobatics, stuff like that, which is very creative. And you get to listen to that main theme, which is very haunting. So it's got Mark Mazza, who's the guy that Terrence Hill slaps around in the saloon in My Name is Nobody. He's very recognizable. Klaus Grunberg plays the pimple or mark-faced brother. And very entertaining, very rewarding film. So hopefully Jay's off the phone, because that's all I got to say about this one. Apparently he's still on the phone. So what else can I say about it? Let's see. What else we got? Screenplay was by Ernest Gastaldi, who's one of the regular Italian writers. So the score and the screenplay are top notch. No other real recognizable faces in here. Remo Capitani is in it. He plays one of Saxon's henchmen. Jess Hahn is in it, plays the stagecoach driver in the very beginning with a floppy hat called Big Horse. And who else is in this thing that you might... Furio Menicani plays the hangman. The Undertaker, played by Mimo Rizzo. And a bunch of no names that you recognize faces, but you wouldn't recognize their names. And that's basically the Grand Duel. It's available on DVD and Blu-ray.
Keep going, Tom. Keep going.
So, keep going. I haven't got anything else to say, Jay. I'm going to go on to the next film then, which is his last film, which is a real stinker, Carambola, 1973, directed by Ferdinando Baldi again. And Ferdinando sort of went off the rails because he found a couple of actors that he used to mimic Terence Hill and Bud Spencer. Michael Coby, who's actually Antonio Cantafora, and Paul Smith were teamed together in a series of westerns and other films as clones of Bud Spencer and Terence Hill. This is a 73 film, also called The Strange Adventures of Coby and Ben. This is about Coby is an ex-Confederate soldier and billiard champion. He and his friend Len Rothman, played by Paul Smith, accept a sum of $50,000 to investigate the trafficking of arms across the Mexican border, including a newly invented weapon. However, the film takes a twist when the pair comes across a new revolutionary revolver. This film is followed by the sequel, The Crazy Adventures of Len and Coby. After Bud Spencer turned down the role of Bluto in Robin Williams' 1980 movie Popeye, Paul Smith was offered and accepted the role. So that's probably where we most remember him the most. But anyways, this is a Trinity comedy type ripoff.
Right.
Frank plays Clydeson, another one after the new invention, and he and his henchmen give Ben and Coby a run for their money. But it's almost like a cameo role, and it's his last Western.
Right. Sorry, Tom. I was actually taking a call from QT. Decided to call me. Hey, you want to have guests on the show next season?
I won't answer his call. So
right. So he asked me. Sorry. So Quentin Tarantino, another possible guest. Right, Tom?
Sure. Sure, Jay.
All right. So anyway, thank you for that. I don't think Carambola has ever been discussed at length like that in history, Tom. But thank you for carrying it over. It was a very important call I had to take. I usually don't do that. Anyway, so there's the great career of Horst Frank, everybody. And look at that, Tom. See if we can go 3D. Yeah. So anyway, right. Great career. Loved Horst Frank. Go out and watch all his movies if you can. You won't be disappointed. But anyway, now we come to the second part of the show, which you always love, is where Tom basically takes over, and which I knew he would slowly do after episode 5. And I'm just kidding. It just happens to be that Tom has a bigger museum than I first thought, so I figured, why not let you see inside his sacred attic? Right, Tom?
That's right, the vault.
The vault. Everything but the vault. So anyway, folks, stick around. It's time for another episode of Book of the Week with our one and only Tom Betts. Tom Betts.
All right. I don't think I've shown this one before, but it's called Per un pugno di dollari. It's a guide to 530 Western Italiana films.
Wait. Show that again, Tom. What language is it in?
It's in Italian.
And the pictures?
No pictures.
Let's take a look.
No pictures.
Oh, so it's kind of like that dictionary.
Yep, it's a dictionary or encyclopedia, but you can follow along.
What's good about that is alternate titles, because no matter what language it's in, they always have to put the alternate titles.
Clint Eastwood is Clint Eastwood in German. Or
Horst Frank is Horst Frank, Tom.
That's right.
Okay.
But it's published by Profondo Rosso. It's 336 pages. It came out in 2018. It's only in Italian. It costs about $35. It's available now.
Okay. Sounds good, Tom. And now we roll right along with another favorite topic, and that would be Autograph of the Week. And we'll get to that right now.
Okay, hang on for this one for a second, Jay.
I love that. That's the best seat. I'm going to use that as a snapshot to lure advertisers. Yeah, my co-host is never there.
This one was too big and too valuable to set out here in a
To just
desk all week.
unfold and cut with a pair of scissors.
No, just hang on a minute. Just hang on a minute. This will be worth it.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
This will be worth it.
Ladies and gentlemen, here on the Ed Sullivan Show is Tom Betts and Topo Gigio. Is that a Jack Elam,
How
Tom?
about Jack Elam from Once Upon a Time in the West?
No, looks like we...
Shy one horse. He's about to listen to the fly in the barrel of the gun.
Ding, 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 ding. Okay, Tom, was that your autograph of the week?
My autograph of the week.
Awesome. Love it. Let's keep the love going with another great topic here on our 50th and final show of the season, but we'll be back soon. We like to call Album of the Week, and this is with my favorite intro music.
All right. Album of the week. It's called Savina's Western. It's a compilation album of Carlos Savina's Westerns. Also a couple of vocals on there by Don Powell. This is on BAM, BLP 105, came out in 79. It's in mono. It's got only 7 tracks, and it's worth about $50.
Tom, are those songs from any spaghetti westerns?
Yeah, they're all from spaghetti westerns.
Oh,
That's-
okay.
The problem is the name of the track, like Cult Song, Great Train, a solo. Now, a couple of them on here, Rocks and Blood and Sand, I recognize. Down here at the bottom, it lists the films.
Keep showing, Tom.
The films
Closer.
that they're from, but you'd have to translate it from Italian.
Okay.
But it's a rare one.
Awesome. And now go on a little bit at length about what's our next topic, Tom?
Posters.
Oh.
Well,
It's poster addict time, isn't it, Tom?
yep.
It's one of our favorite topics, and you can expound on that for a minute,
I got quite a few, so.
right? As we get to Tom's poster addict.
That's the first one. This is from,
Okay. Oh,
can you see it? That's your Conquerors of Arkansas, Massacre at Marble City. And then this one is Black Eagle of Santa Fe, German. And this one is, I had it signed by Brad Harris. So it's autographed copy. Then we've got, again, same thing in Belgium. We've got Django Prepare a Coffin, or Viva Django. Again, a Belgian poster. It's another version of the same film. And I forgot
Yeah.
what,
Yeah, Tom, those Trinity that Django ones are my favorite, yeah.
and again, they go back now because of the Trinity film. They re-release it and call it Trinity, you know.
I meant the previous one you showed before that one was one of my favorites.
Viva Django, yeah, it's one of my
Wh- what-
favorites too. This is the one you showed, the American Wild and the Dirty. And when I first saw this at a used bookstore, Jay, I'm going, what the heck is that? I never heard of that title, but it had to be an Italian Western with that cast. So I bought it for like $5, found out what it was. There he is, crucified. From the
Yeah, the old on the they use that for a lot of posters, Tom.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Nice one, Tom. But we know that's not a Django movie.
That's right.
I am actually shocked, Tom. You have more, I think, more German and Belgian than I thought you had, Tom. Of course, who doesn't have this, Tom? Everybody has to have one George Hilton German poster, Tom.
Yep. There's Horst.
Ein mein Unnerven hat weiß Stahl, which means moment to kill, Tom.
That's it. Oh, you like this one?
Oh, yep, I have that one too, Tom.
You got that one?
Yeah, I went for that one as opposed to the one with the white background.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's all Lee. That's great.
I'm sure that you have the white background too, right, Tom?
I got this one. Belgium.
Oh, yeah. But the one that's just him with the white background.
Yeah, I know.
You have that, yes or no, Tom?
I don't have that one.
Oh, that's shocking.
Yeah. Nope, I don't have that one.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that ends another riveting edition of Tom's Poster Attic, which I love to pieces, and is going to be a spin-off. Tom's going to have his own show. Look how excited he is.
Yeah.
In place of this show is Tom's Poster Attic, folks. 1 hour.
As you know, Jay, these are all in folders, folded up, so it takes
No,
me
but
half
Tom,
an hour
I
to
think
get
you
them
have
out.
to get to with the reality.
Yeah.
That next week at noon for an hour, you're gonna every Friday gonna be bringing them.
We'll just take the camera in the back room and show all the posters and the LPs and the CDs.
Oh man, I would kill for that, Tom. Please, we beg you, do Tom's Poster Attic
No.
every week. Oh, it'd be the highest rated show on YouTube and Facebook.
Right.
Anyway, Tom, thank you so much for that. We love that. And of course, no show is complete without a visit to the weekly news, where we have updates on Blu-ray releases, obits, and birthdays. Tom Betts, it's time for the weekly news.
All right, the weekly news. A new book release, Italo Westerns and More, a film guide by author Felix Hallbrock Ponce. It's from Germany. It's independently published in English, 175 pages. I bought a copy of this because it's only like $6 on Amazon. It's for the novice. Anybody that's into Italian Westerns isn't going to get a lot out of it, but if you're new to the genre, want to know what these titles are and what they're about, it's an inexpensive way to buy a book, find out what the titles are, who's in it, and what the story is about, than trying to buy Any Gun Can Play or Thomas Weiser's atrocious book or some of the other ones. So that's the book of the week. There's no CDs, no DVDs, nothing like that. Passings, we have, this is an update. I received an email last week from Philippe Regue in France with a copy of the official announcement of the passing of actor Donald O'Brien back in 2018. His death has been mispublished for at least 10 or 15 years. He was born Donald Timothy O'Brien on September 15th, 1930 in Pau, Pyrenees, Atlantiques, France, and died April 23rd, 2018 in Anderanos, Les Bains, Nouvelle-Aquitaine, France. People want to know, well, how do you get the name O'Brien? His father was Irish, and they lived in France and bailed out of France when the war started. Horst Donald appeared in 19 Euro westerns, starting with a small role in 1960's Dynamite Jack, starring Fernandel. He followed that up with Run Man Run in 67, Finders Killers, The Last Trader, Paid in Blood, The Sheriff of Rock Springs, all in 71. God is My Colt 45, Jesse and Lester, Two Brothers in a Place Called Trinity in 72, The Judgment of God, Kung Fu Brothers in the Wild West, Six Bounty Killers for a Massacre, all 72, Challenge to White Fang for the Apocalypse, White Fang to the Rescue, all 74. He was in Keoma in 75, A Man Called Blade in 77, Silver Saddle in 78, and his last was the 2020 Texas Gladiators in 1982. Sometime in the early 90s, he had slipped and fallen in a bathtub in Paris and was in a coma for a number of weeks. He came out of that, but was partially paralyzed on his entire left side. So that really restricted him on the film roles that he could take. And sometime in the late 90s, he retired. But his death has always been a mystery, because you'll see various dates. And Philip actually came up with the publication that showed the date of death in the necrology. So shout out to Philip Rege. Also, German actor and voice dubber Norbert Gescher died on April 30th. He was 81. He was born in Berlin, Germany on December 14th, 1939 as Norbert Gescher Ringelnatz. He was well known for being the German voiceover of Steve Martin, Richard Dreyfuss, and Beau Bridges. His voice was heard in 3 European westerns. His name was Holy Ghost in 72. He was the voice of a soldier. Lucky Luke in 84, German voice of Augustus Oyster. And in Banditas in 2006, he was the German voice of Jose Maria Negre. Also came up with a discovery this week of another actor named Zachary Hatcher, that it was in Renegade Gunfighter. And it's always been a question mark, who in the hell is Zachary Hatcher? Well, his actual name was Zachary Adams. He was an American model and singer who appeared in 3 Italian films. He was born on September 7th, 1940 in the States, but I cannot find out exactly where. He was in Rome for a photography session when he was discovered and signed to appear as Hud Backer in 64's Per Mille Dollari al Giorno, also known as For $1,000 a Day, and Renegade Gunfighter. Was directed by Silvio Amadio and co-starred Pier Angeli and Mimo Palmari, also known as Dick Palmer. He filmed also 2 other films, Camille 2000, and was credited as Zachary Adams, his real name, except it was Zachery. And film 3 was called Checkmate, but he was injured, and we don't know if the film was ever released. Birthdays this week. Lex Barker would have been 102 on the 8th. James Mitchum turned 80 on the 8th. Ferdinando Baldi would have been 94 on the 9th. Candice Bergen turned 75 on the 9th. Francois Fabian turned 88 on the 10th. Sean Flynn would have been 80 on the 10th. Frank Wolf would have been 93 on the 11th. Harry Baird would have been 90 on the 12th. Jess Franco would have been 90 on the 12th. Claudia Gravy from my favorite film, Modulo, turned 76 on the 12th. Gisela Hahn turned 78 on the 13th. Lloyd Batista is 84 today. And Alberto Del Acqua, also known as Cole Kitosh, and Robert Whitmark turned 77 today. Shout out again to Philip Rege for the information on Donald O'Brien. And happy birthday to my amigo, Vicky Millington in London. And that is the news of the week, or the weekly news.
Well, Tom's Weekly News, of course. You got to copyright that thing, Tom.
Sure.
50 week news of the weeks, the weekly news is. Just to see that alone, folks, if you're not a fan of the show, I would tune into the last 10, 15 minutes of every show, if just that, on YouTube, and just watch those. Those are riveting. I've been asked, can we just see Tom's on weekly news on a loop? I said no.
Thank you. appreciate that.
You have to watch them
loopy
individually in each episode, Tom.
I'm loopy enough.
Right. But I want to just give a quick thank you for everybody for watching the first 50 episodes here. The season 1 from, I guess, May 2020 to May 2021. 50 episodes. We had about half a dozen interviews with spaghetti Western stars and authors and experts. And we've done, I think, a lot of show on the actors, on the locations, on the directors. And we, character actors, people you've heard of, you didn't hear of before. We even did the heavies. We did Clint and LVC, of course, and Claudia Cardinal. And so we try to give you the most we could in a 1-year time frame. So, and then, of course, the great, Tom, I might be on top, but you're on the bottom going down in a loop. Anyway. No, the great Tom Betts.
Well, people will look back on 2020 as not the year of the pandemic, but the year of Once Upon a Time in Spaghetti Westerns.
No, absolutely, Tom. And I want to appreciate your time and efforts as being one of many guys out there who are keeping the genre alive. And my hat off to you, sir, as Ed McMahon would say. But we want to thank you all for watching. 1,500 strong in about a year's time. Let's get it to 3,000, Tom, next year. That would be nice, right? No, summer hiatus, a little vacation time to regain our senses and use our oxygen masks. And we should, at least on my end. But you can't see mine. It's clear. I'm still wearing the tubes now, Tom. But we have a winner and you get a chicken dinner at Knott's Berry Farm. So that's what you would know. The winner of our collection of 10 stills, including an original 6 still or 5 still from for a few dollars more, French. And what I did is I put everybody's name who was interested into a file. And when I asked, the Jet Jupiter, ZT Western, Tony Williams, Roy Garrett, Jay Pepe, Michael McGleenan, Devin, of course, Sebastian, Wasim, and Henry all said I'd like to put my name in the hat. So the winner is, I'm actually going to go into the sombrero. This was actually predetermined. I actually covered my eyes and just moved the mouse around, and whoever it landed won. And the winner is, I'd always wanted to say this name as a talk show host. The winner is Jet Jupiter. So Jet, you are the winner of the 8 or 9 stills, all originals. You can just send me your PM me your address and stuff. But there is a $10 fee for shipping, so you can PayPal that me at your leisure. Maybe Venmo, we'll see. But anyway, thank you everybody for watching. Tom, any last words?
No, I just want to thank everybody for watching and putting up with us for a year. And we'll try and get better every episode.
Well, that's what Tom said after the first one. But it's like Citizen Kane, Tom. Once you've done the best, it's all downhill from there. But anyway, as I said, we're going to have a guest every show next season, and someone in the spaghetti Western genre who will enlighten you and thrill you. I'm looking forward to, it has been discussed that, yes, Gianni Garco, Sartana will be a guest. It's 100% done deal. He's actually, here's the special part, folks. He's going to talk to us in English. Tom?
That's right. He sent us a message.
He sent us a message. Jay and Tom. Sorry that I've been so long, but I want to do this in English. So he's actually looking at it like an acting role, Tom.
Yeah, exactly.
He's going to basically study this, and when he's ready, whatever that is, Gianni Garco will be on the Spaghetti Western podcast, a first in history. Also have it, Tony Anthony is aware, and so is Fred the Hammer Williamson, who's made a couple Spaghetti Westerns as well. So Tom, for Gertrude, my 86-year-old, or is it 96? I don't remember. And I don't remember if she's my grandmother or my aunt, or maybe she's both. But anyway, she's actually a mummified corpse like Mrs. Bates, Tom. Mm-hmm. So anyway, Tom, thank you once again for your time and efforts in putting the show together. A little R&R for Tom and I, and then we'll be back again with season 2. So, Tom, what do you always say to everybody?
Adios, amigos.
And for the 50th time, and till next time, we'll see you on season 2. Oh, hold on, I pressed the wrong button. I say to everybody, adios. What is it again, Tom?
Compañeros.
Compañeros. And I wish you all the best. Thank you for joining us on the Once Upon a Time in Spaghetti Westerns podcast. Join us next time for more informative reviews, interviews, and recollections. Adios, amigos.